In my opinion, club face is top of the list, and things that need to be in order to hit good golf shots with consistency. And HackMotion has been huge for me personally, just because it's a way to measure something very important in the swing and quantify it. So as students are improving and getting better, you've got actual data to show them, just another point in the golf swing that's important. Personally, I really use it for the flexion and extension numbers more than anything. I mean, most of the golfers that are coming through the door or are slicers of the ball, they've got a lot of extension going on. So, to be able to help them solve, their biggest need, which is stopping the slice or minimizing the slice, having access to what the left wrist or what the lead wrist, I should say, is doing during the swing has really been invaluable for me personally.
Having a device that is so simply set up, and that's one of the other things, like it competes with the launch monitor for how easy it is to set up, like Gears is great and it has its benefits, but like you're not going to do that in certain sessions every week because it's bulky and big and takes, you have to take the long setting up process. You can literally get down and dirty with a student really quick and quantify what they're saying compared to what you're saying with some data and measurements.
It's the same thing. People are incredulous when you put them on the HackMotion and go, well, this is what you're doing. No, I don't do that. I hear it every day. No, I don't do that. Oh no, I do this every day. And you put it, and then they look, and the facial expressions they have when they see the chart and when they see the numbers, and they go, well, I guess that's why I don't hit the ball the way I'm supposed to. The quantifiable data is just, it's so valuable because as everybody's discussed so far, what golfers think they're doing and what they're actually doing are almost never the same thing. And when you can show them, yeah, this is what you're actually doing, boss, they can't deny it. And then, they're more likely to want to make a change, especially when they always want to copy what the pros do. And if you show them a pro graph and you show them that theirs is different, they'll be like, okay, I'll change.
If I would ask you to maybe come up with 3 most popular misconceptions about wrist angles that students and also coaches have, what would you say?
Lag is the first one for me.
Yeah. Oh, I was going there
I hate
too.
that word. I hate
too.
that word so much. I was making videos about the concepts of lag before HackMotion was available, because you could I've got 3D software on computers and you can just see that people are perceiving 2D images so incorrect in relationship to angles as it falls down the body and what have you. Lag is often, that's one of the biggest one. 90% plus probably of our students are slicing the ball, them holding on to angles on the way down often leads to more extension for them, and controlling the club face just like it's not happening for lots of them. And that would be the key one for me. I don't know what you guys think.
No,
I would agree.
And just
big one for me.
Yeah. The rolling of the club face to try to get the face to close. Just how much somebody does that. There's a lot more that's going on, as you guys have been alluding to, how you do the ulnar deviation of flexure wrist. That's how you close the face of the path, not necessarily all of this rolling or tumbling of the shaft that you have to have. So since I teach the teachers here, people come in all the time. We have to re-educate them on what's actually controlling the face of the path, because there's just players and coaches alike have that misconception of that one.
Grip is a bit of a misconception that I see often too, just how the grip relates to some of these things that go on during the swing. For example, students just associate needing more flexion and closing the face with strengthening their grip. And, sometimes that's obviously counterproductive. They strengthen the grip, they add a little bit more extension. They can't, it's like, sort of a domino effect there. So that's definitely one that I see. The lag, the rolling of the face, those things are probably 2 top on my list. But a close third would just be how the grip relates to controlling the face during the swing.
Right. Maybe you can give more specific examples of players that you worked with data and how it has helped them. If what would be a typical case?
Oh, as everybody here said, it just extension. Teaching a student when we first had it, I think I had a student have about 45 degrees, maybe 50 degrees of lead wrist extension at 5. Sorry, that's my coding of the system. Sorry, P5. When the left arm's parallel in the downswing. So they go to the top swing and then come down, how just much they were extending the lead wrist at that point and how open the face was. So then just using the feedback and that number to talk about how to flex that thing and to never ever let the lead wrist go into extension was just a really easy way to convey what was actually happening with that student, why they were slicing the ball so bad. I really do like the benchmarking tool that you have too. When we can overlay a good player's pattern over a bad player's pattern and just show how much it's changing and the directions it's changing. That would be, we teach the students like that all the time. The one I was thinking about is the student, John, his last name will go in name, but he came in, his spin loft was way too high. He sliced every single shot that he hit. They didn't go anywhere. He was basically hitting bunker shots with his driver all day long. So we just started using the graphs and the benchmarks, start teaching him how to keep this lead wrist, what felt to him probably always in flexion, even though it wasn't necessarily always, but always doing that to help close the face and reduce spin loft. And as you guys know, as you start changing some of those things, the ball starts to curve differently, one, but then two, without really adding speed, you're starting to reduce the spin loft, and then the distance gain starts to happen. So it's just another way that you can convey what your wrists are doing to not necessarily body motion, but just how influential they are and how key separators they are of skill when you look at bad versus good.
Too, I've tested this with a lot of tour pro students of mine, and we've been talking about amateurs a lot here, which is obviously the majority of who we're teaching. But it's fascinating to me, the tour pros, they're, for the majority of them, they're all doing it, the way we want, right? They're all going into flexion in the transition there, and their wrist angles are under control, but they have no idea what they're doing, really. I've gone through some HackMotion numbers with students on tour, and I mean, it's like conceptually, it's they're doing all these things subconsciously for sure, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a question from the audience actually. Is there any important correlation between wrist movement and swing plane?
What you think the most basic answer to that question, though, is yes, it does. If you want to swing more into out and have a greater ability to close the face of the path and not slice it, then you need to start flexing your lead wrist. If you want to swing more to the left and hit with the face more open to the path, then start extending your lead wrist more.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. To answer that question as it's phrased, you'd think in terms of shallowing and flexing and steepening and extending.
Yeah, absolutely. When you flex an ulnar, it flattens the pitch of the shaft. When you radial and extend it, tips out that's how I answer it too.
But by definition, but by definition, all of those terms don't need to warrant any of those club paths you've all mentioned, which I know you know. That's
Absolutely.
why I like to wash that one away when a student answers it. And I think the discussion we're having is good, hopefully, for the person who's asked the question. Hopefully we're answering the question in some ways.
Next question from audience is, don't you guys think that the main problem for amateur players with lead wrist is excessive pressure?
Pressure as in like?
I think grip pressure.
No, I'd say the fastest swingers, the best golfers hold on to it much tighter than your everyday golfer do.
So this is something that I have a really
there's another misconception, boys.
It's a classic one, isn't it? It's a great one.
Hold it like a baby bird or an open toothpaste tube. So this is something I have a really personal connection to. So, as was said before, I was a world long driving champion in 1992. Is that I had 100th percentile grip strength. And, if everybody's seen a dynamometer that measures grip strength, and they measured everybody that was playing the Nike Tour, the Korn Ferry Tour at the time, at that event in Denver. And, most of the guys, the long hitters were pulling 135, 140 on the gauge. And I think 142 or 145 was the highest one. And I squeezed over 200. And
wow,
the thing that we all came up with is, and this is a theory that I can't prove that this is true. It's just a theory. But my theory is that my grip strength allowed me to reach my personal ability to max out my club head speed more than people with lower grip pressures, because at those speeds, they're not able to control the club face for whatever reason.
if you guys had to summarize like a message that you'd want coaches and players to take away with them after this discussion, what would you say?
For me, I would just say keep gathering data. Keep gathering data, collecting data, sharing data. That would be at the top of my list, because that's what's so great about something like HackMotion. It just gives us more information, measurable information. Just keep gathering, keep analyzing, and looking at some important trends. That would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, to me, the verbiage I always use is we need to put aside all of these tired terms and misnomers about what's happening in the swing. Gather more data, have more discussion, and figure out what's actually happening.
I'd only add to that, say, how you move your wrist is a key differentiator in skill level. And there are clear patterns that good players demonstrate versus the high handicaps demonstrate, or a person who draws a ball versus slices a ball. So if you're teaching anybody, I think at some point, because it matters so much to the spin loft you use, the face to path, how you lean the shaft. If you're not teaching them right now, you need to be, regardless of player, whether it's a highly skilled player or whether it's a really high handicap. At some point, they need to understand what to do with their elbows and their wrists if they're ultimately going to change their hitting form. So using devices like HackMotion will help you better understand what those patterns are, and then it'll give you some great tools to teach and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be test, retest, test, retest, and test. Like, measure stuff. Like, if you've got a theory, an idea, go and test it. Go and measure it. Test it with 30 people. Find 30 people. Use it as a business opportunity to get 30 potential students or students you haven't seen in a while to back into your studio and do some tests with them and get chatting to them again. And like they said before, and then share the data with us. Like, just present your findings. We can all learn from good, well measured tests, because in golf there's just not enough tests. There's far too much still that we're anecdotally diagnosing, where if we had the time we should be doing more tests on it. So test, retest, and test is a great way for any coach, young or old, to get out there and just improve their skills.